Imagine for a moment waking up tomorrow with $25 billion. You can shape industries, influence nations, craft a legacy.
Now, imagine discovering that half of your own country despises you. This isn't a fantasy, it's the stark reality for George Soros. According to YouGov polls, a staggering 51% of Americans view him unfavorably. He is one of the most disliked public figures alive. This raises a profound question, one that pulls at the very fabric of power and perception. Are the Soros family misunderstood philanthropists, or are they dangerous puppet masters of democracy? I'm Beatrice, and I am endlessly fascinated by these hidden stories where wealth and history collide. So what fuels this visceral reaction? It's not one thing, it's a two-front war, and in this video we're going to expose the entire blueprint. On one front, it's a quiet war for America's justice system. He's funneled over $17 million to help elect 75 prosecutors, meaning 1 in 5 Americans now lives under a top law official backed by his money. The second front is a battle for your mind. A staggering $131 million has flowed from his foundations to over 250 of the world's most influential media organizations. But to truly understand how one man could build a machine powerful enough to bend justice and media to his will, you can't just look at the money. You have to unlock the psychological source code. And that code was written in fear and fire in Nazi-occupied Budapest when he was just 14 years old. His name was George Soros. For a 14-year-old boy in Nazi-occupied Budapest, survival was a full-time job, a constant, terrifying performance. The brittle rustle of forged Christian papers in his pocket was often the only sound louder than his own heartbeat. Every day was a masterclass in deception. He watched his father, a master of improvisation, bribe officials with a smile. He saw Jewish neighbors, people he knew, simply vanish, swallowed by a brutal system. The lesson was seared into his mind, not with ink, but with fear. Official reality was a lie. The world wasn't a set of fixed rules, it was a stage. And on that stage, you either wrote the script or you were just an actor waiting for your final exit. After the Nazis fell, the Soviets rose, a new director with the same iron fist. At 17, Georgi escaped again, this time to London. That core lesson, that systems are made to be bent, would follow him from the rubble of one empire to the heart of another. In London, he was an outsider, washing dishes and hauling luggage, observing a world of quiet English aristocracy that seemed impossibly distant. He didn't want to join it. He wanted to understand its wiring. His mind found its spark at the London School of Economics, where he read the philosopher Karl Popper's theories on the open society. But where Popper saw an ideal of rational discourse, the boy from Budapest saw an operating manual for a system full of exploitable bugs. It was here he shed his old identity. He became George Soros, the name an echo of a Hungarian word for successor. He moved to New York, and in the chaotic hum of Wall Street, he found the perfect laboratory. He discovered a genius for arbitrage, exploiting the tiny, fleeting gaps between a stock's perceived value and its actual price. It was the financial version of what he learned as a child. Find the fracture between perception and reality, and you'll find your profit. He was brilliant at it. He had a philosophy forged in chaos and a talent for seeing the flaws in any system. But playing games with stocks on Wall Street is one thing. What happens when you use that same philosophy to attack not a company, but an entire nation? What happens when you decide to break an empire? The world wouldn't have to wait long for an answer. The stage for this epic confrontation was set not on a battlefield,
but in the world of global finance. And Soros's weapon was his theory of reflexivity, the beautifully simple, terrifyingly effective idea that market participants don't just react to reality, they create it. In 1992, the British pound was the perfect target. It was shackled to a European currency system at a rate that everyone knew was too high. But for the government, it was a matter of national pride. The Bank of England was holding a beach ball underwater with sheer political will.
Soros saw the vanity. He saw the crack between perception and reality, and he placed his bet. An audacious, almost unthinkable $10 billion bet against the sterling. What followed, on September 16, 1992, forever known as Black Wednesday, was a bloodbath. The Bank of England fought back like a wounded giant. It began hemorrhaging billions of its foreign currency reserves to buy up pounds. When that didn't work, the Chancellor announced a panicked interest rate hike from an already high 10% to 12%. Nothing. Within hours, he promised an unheard of 15%. But it was too late. Soros had created a new reality. A feeding frenzy began as other traders joined his attack. By evening, the British Chancellor was forced into a humiliating surrender on live television. The pound crashed. In a single day, the British Treasury lost over £3 billion. George Soros pocketed $1 billion. He had proven that reality, even the economic reality of a major nation, could be bent by sheer force of will and capital. He was now the man who broke the Bank of England. But that was just the appetizer. American prosecutors were about to learn they could be purchased even more cheaply than British pounds. And the first city to be served as the main course in this experiment was Philadelphia. With a $1.7 million donation from George Soros, a defense attorney named Larry Krasner became district attorney. The result? In just a few years, murders exploded by 87%, reaching a devastating 562 deaths in a single year. But a number like that is almost impossible to truly comprehend. So let's talk about just one. His name was Hassan Elliott. Despite a long and violent criminal record, he was released on a stunningly low bail.
Shortly after, he murdered Philadelphia Police Corporal James O'Connor. A father, a husband, a son, gone. Because a system, re-engineered by an outside ideologue with a checkbook, decided his killer deserved another chance. Then came Virginia. Soros spent over $2 million to install 4 new prosecutors. One of them, Steve DeSano, promised a new era of restorative justice. But what did that restoration actually look like in people's lives? A 49% drop in felony cases being prosecuted, assaults up 43%, carjackings, a terrifyingly personal crime, surged by 74%. DeSano even effectively legalized shoplifting under $1,000. Imagine running a small shop, your life's work, and being told that theft is no longer a crime worth pursuing. That is the quiet, heartbreaking erosion of a community. Let's just pause for a moment. Please, don't let these numbers become white noise. Philadelphia, Virginia, these aren't isolated tragedies. If we only see them as individual data points, we miss the horrifying truth right in front of us. We are witnessing a pattern, a repeatable script. I've come to think of it as the Chaos Playbook in action, and it's vital we see how it works before we discover who is taking it to an entirely new level. And the playbook was deployed everywhere. Chicago, under Kim Foxx, the city saw 4,000 murders as her office dismissed tens of thousands of felony cases, including for murder and sexual assault. Baltimore, Marilyn Mosby presided over a city with a murder rate of 59 per 100,000 people, one of the highest on the planet. St. Louis, Kim Gardner's office saw prosecution rates simply collapse, leaving victims with no justice and criminals with no fear.
A pattern of systemic failure, all tracing back to the same source of funding, the same ideology. Entire cities spiraling into chaos. The very promise of public safety dismantled brick by brick with a checkbook. You would think this level of destruction would be the endgame, a lesson learned. You would be wrong, because the man who inherited this $25 billion empire looked at all of this and decided his father's only mistake was thinking too small. That man is his son, Alex Soros. And in June 2023, he inherited the keys to his father's $25 billion empire. His first public promise was chillingly simple. He would be more political than his father, and he meant it. Where George operated in the shadows, a master of complex systems and quiet influence, Alex lives in the spotlight. Forget backroom deals. Think Instagram feeds filled with grinning photos next to world leaders.
Forget subtlety. Think 20 separate visits to the Biden White House, an almost casual stroll through the corridors of power. This wasn't just a change in style, it was a fundamental rewiring of the entire machine. Alex began slashing his father's funding for progressive prosecutors. That project was over. Instead, he redirected a staggering $60 million into a single entity, the Democracy PAC, a fund with one purpose: winning elections. The family's philanthropic arm, the Open Society Foundations, was gutted. Over 40% of its global workforce was laid off. The mission was no longer global charity. It was being reforged into a partisan war chest aimed squarely at American politics. Insiders were horrified. Leaked reports described Alex as impossible to work with, exactly the wrong person to lead. The Media Research Center, which tracks the family's spending, put it best. Alex Soros is more dangerous than his father, not because he's more ideological, but because of his complete shamelessness. More political, more direct, more shameless. The son had taken his father's machine of influence and pointed it directly at the heart of American politics. But when you wage a war this public, on this many fronts, the world eventually starts to fight back. And the global revolt against the Soros empire was already underway. It began in the heart of the old world. Russia declared Soros's foundations an enemy of the state. His native Hungary launched a nationwide campaign under the banner, "Don't let Soros have the last laugh," ultimately forcing his Open Society foundations to flee from Budapest to Berlin. And they weren't alone.
From Pakistan to Poland, governments began to see his network not as charity, but as a direct challenge to their sovereignty. But perhaps the most powerful rebuke came from a quiet rebellion at the ballot box. Back in America, in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, voters have forcefully removed over 20 of the prosecutors his money put into power since 2022. It was a democratic answer to the question of unchecked wealth, a reminder that even billions cannot permanently overwrite the will of a people who feel their safety and society are at risk. And now, we turn the final verdict over to you. Are the Soros family misunderstood philanthropists or dangerous puppet masters? We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. If you believe these hidden histories of power and influence deserve a voice, be sure to join us for the next one.
Thank you for spending your time with us here at Old Money Luxury.